My name is Dr. Shawnee Wakeman, and I am the principal investigator for Project Impact, a model demonstration project funded in 2018. On the project with me are Dr. Alicia Saunders, Dr. Rob Pennington, Dr. Lynn Algrim-Delzell, and Mr. Brett Serrato. This presentation showcases the lessons we learned about effective literacy instruction within our model over the course of 3 years, all of which had some impact of COVID. The impact model was designed to address 4 goals related to improving educator practice and student comprehension outcomes in both separate and inclusive classrooms. The model has 3 phases, with coaching occurring in each phase. The first phase supported special education teachers and paraprofessionals to implement 2 evidence-based practices in separate classrooms with instruction on vocabulary and comprehension. The second phase included special education and general education teachers co-planning and implementing grade-aligned literacy lessons using the grade-level text and supports. The third phase included the use of peer supports during instruction on additional grade-aligned literacy lessons. This slide includes images of various types of resources, tools, and modules we developed within the project. Feedback on these materials was gathered from our expert panel, our partner district administration, and the participating educators. Revisions were made based upon their feedback. 2 of the most successful strategies we taught the educators to use were the system of least prompt hierarchies for literal and inferential questions. Prior to starting each hierarchy, students were taught to look back into the text for the answer or related information. We found that many students who were able to independently utilize this step required fewer prompts, which you will see later in our Year 2 data. The format for our training changed over time due to COVID. In Year 1, we were able to conduct live trainings for all 3 phases, but we were unable to conduct phase 3 lessons in the general education classroom. This slide provides our Year 1 educator data. The table on the left provides our coaching data, and the table on the right provides the fidelity data. Note that the paraprofessionals, the Ps at the bottom of the table, ended up with very high fidelity for both constant time delay and the system of least prompts. Student data from the 3 assessments, the pre-test, post-test 1, and post-test 2 in Year 1, can be seen in the table on the left. The graph on the right provides a visual of the differences in scores between elementary and middle school students. The differences were not significant, meaning the model worked at both school levels. A few of our Year 1 takeaways related to engagement. General educators were all coached to increase their opportunities to respond for all students in the classroom. Students with extensive support needs needed more support to respond in those classrooms, as those lessons were their first introduction into those classrooms and with those teachers. We changed that in Year 3. Everyone reported benefits from having a coach to support their instruction. Pacing in the general education classroom, which wasn't a surprise, was potentially the biggest challenge for the special education teachers and students. In Year 2, the district closed all the schools for in-person instruction. They allowed us to work with one school in which the special education teacher and paraprofessional taught lessons using Zoom. The teacher read the text in the whole group and then broke the students into breakout rooms, rotating them through the rooms for about 10 minutes each, working on comprehension of the text that was read in the whole classroom, vocabulary of that same text, and then their literacy-related IEP goals. 4 students gave consent for data collection. The graph shows the students were able to improve their daily comprehension scores with implementation of the evidence-based practices within the instruction. This slide shows that the 4 students who were taught to look back into the text, which was both on the screen and in a paper copy that we provide to them in their school packets, were able to provide more independent answers and required less intensive prompts once the system was implemented during the instruction. Year 2 allowed us to create a close relationship with those 2 educators with the ability to support them during their instruction in a virtual environment, both of which had never done it before. The opportunity to work with them allowed us to learn about delivering our model in an online format. We used numerous formats for coaching, built all the training modules to an online format, and used Zoom for fidelity checks. The educators were amazing to work with. This past school year, we were able to complete all 3 phases for the first time. The district allowed us to work with 2 schools, 1 middle school and 1 elementary school. Training occurred in a hybrid format, and we worked with the middle school to adapt a grade level text for use in the inclusion classroom when the district decided to change the text in the middle of the school year. Student data this year included a pre-test, post-test 1, post-test 2, and post-test 3 for 12 students. It was the first time we were able to post-test for all 3 phases of the project. The graph on the left shows the data for the students between elementary, which is the blue line, and middle school students, which is the red line. The graph on the right shows the statistical difference between the students who went into the inclusion classroom, the red line, and those students who did not participate in the inclusion classroom, the blue line. The takeaways in year 3 were the model must include coaching. The teachers continued to need support to find time to lesson plan together, and we struggled to stay ahead of the gen ed classroom for the chapter adaptations when they changed the grade level text. Teachers would not have been able to do that without us. Maybe the best thing that happened was that the students in the inclusion classroom took on leadership roles in those classes, and 1 student in the elementary school advocated to both teachers for more lessons in that classroom once the project was finished. Thank you for listening to our presentation about Project Impact. Our model went through some changes with several of those making the model stronger and more versatile. What positives, if any, came from your project as a result of COVID? And how have you incorporated those positives into your practice, model, or center?
Welcome to a short presentation about lessons learned while implementing interventions during the COVID-19 pandemic. This presentation was prepared by Russell Swinburne Romine, Shawnee Wakeman, and Chris Lemons. The contents of this presentation were developed by the presenters for the 2022 OSEP Project Directors Conference. However, these contents do not necessarily represent the policy of the Department of Education, and you should not assume endorsement by the federal government. This presentation will focus on reflections and findings from the 3 model demonstration projects funded by OSEP in 2018. All are focused on literacy. These include Project Impact, led by Dr. Shawnee Wakeman at the University of North Carolina, Charlotte. Data-based instruction by design, led by Dr. Chris Lemons at Stanford University. And the Shared Writing Instructional Model, or SWIM, project, led by Dr. Russell Swinburne Romine at the University of Kansas. All 3 projects needed to respond to the unique demands of implementing intervention research during the COVID-19 pandemic. Challenges included student and teacher absences, staff shortages, unpredictable schedules, and modes of instruction. I'll share a little bit about each of our projects. Project Impact is a 2018 model demonstration project housed at the University of North Carolina at Charlotte. The project is designed to support general education teachers, special education teachers, and paraprofessionals to utilize research-based practices with students with extensive support needs, design grade-aligned instruction in the area of reading comprehension, generalize instruction to inclusive settings, and benefit from intensive coaching experiences to promote fidelity and sustainability. There are 4 long-term outcomes. Improve the reading comprehension outcome data for students with ESN, improve the quality of instruction for students with ESN in more inclusive environments, increase the number of inclusive opportunities in academic settings for students with ESN, and increase the capacity of PLC members to implement RBPs and utilize model curriculum tools in inclusive academic classrooms. For this presentation, we are sharing our educator data and considering how the context of COVID influenced educator performance in 2020 to 2021 and 2021 to 2022. Educator fidelity of practice was our fourth goal of the project. This slide represents the two educators, one special education teacher in blue and one paraprofessional in orange, Impact was able to work with during the 2020 to 2021 school year. The teacher used the system of lease prompts during online instruction in small groups to support student comprehension of a read aloud text that occurred once in the whole group Zoom room and then again during the small group breakout room. The paraprofessional taught vocabulary using constant time delay within a separate small group breakout room. This slide represents data from two special education teachers and one paraprofessional during the 2021 to 2022 school year. Notice there is more variability with the use of the system of lease prompts, and E1 is actually a special education teacher who had been teaching 20 plus years and regularly either repeated prompt levels or skipped prompts within the prompting system. Our two takeaways from the educator data are that while we had a small educator sample during these 2 years, because of the district request, educators were able to learn to use research-based practices to fidelity, regardless of how they were trained and how they were providing instruction. The next project, DBI by Design, is focused on a design thinking approach to enhance educators' use of data-based individualization in order to improve literacy skills of students with intellectual disabilities. The project has involved participants who are general and special education teachers who together teach elementary and middle school students with intellectual and developmental disabilities. Participants work with one student in their first year and add additional students in subsequent years. The DBI by Design project incorporates a supported professional learning community, an evidence-based coaching model, and a design thinking approach to deliver data-based instruction that includes individualization and evidence-based literacy and instructional practices. There are 5 outcomes for the project, including enhanced teacher knowledge and skills, enhanced student outcomes in literacy, enhanced alignment of instruction with grade level standards, enhanced access to the grade level curriculum, and enhanced alignment of IEPs to the Andrew F. standard. During implementation during COVID, the project saw outcomes including improved literacy outcomes for students with IDD in elementary and middle schools, increased alignment of instruction with grade level standards and access to the general education curriculum, and implementation in general and special education settings. Additionally, the project saw improved teacher knowledge and skill related to date-based instruction, increased feasibility, desirability, viability, and effectiveness of professional development and coaching model. As the project moves into the final year, they have successfully engaged general and special educators across 3 states. Teachers are returning to continue implementation. The focus for this year is preparing materials for dissemination, collecting additional data on literacy and inclusion outcomes for students with IDD, and preparing a Train the Trainer series of modules for school personnel to continue to the project. In the final project, the Shared Writing Instructional Model, we are working to integrate a research-based learning map model of writing development, evidence-based and promising practices for writing instructions for students with intellectual disabilities, and aligned formative assessments within an online dashboard teachers use while planning, delivering, and evaluating writing instruction. We are working with the Iowa Department of Education and participating districts in Iowa to develop a model that complements existing initiatives in Iowa that support comprehensive literacy instruction. There were many challenges in the past school year, including returning to buildings, staff shortages, disruptions to classroom conditions, and individual participant life experiences affected by COVID. We embrace flexibility this year, especially in providing coaching to teachers. We also solicited feedback about the intervention from our teachers during coaching sessions. We are using what we learned about delivering the model in challenging conditions to provide a broad range of implementation strategies to support the model's use long term. We employed many different strategies to help support implementation this past year. We provided multiple flexible options for coaching to maintain regular contact with participating teachers. The result was that teachers found the program valuable, and all participating teachers were able to deliver writing instruction throughout the school year. We confronted high rates of absenteeism and understaffing in paraprofessional positions. The result was that several teachers worked to adapt the intervention successfully to small group instruction. We worked to ensure that building and administrators got regular updates on the project and student progress. The result was that administrators had positive feedback about the project and actively supported swim teachers. Some of the lessons we are carrying forward are to provide flexible options for delivery of the intervention tailored to individual sites, a full coaching menu of different ways to receive coaching in person and/or online at different times, and working to develop a swim community of practice across districts. Thank you for your time and interest.
This is the final slide set and a quick overview of the 2019 projects funded under the Dyslexia Model Demonstration Project. The University of Houston has the assessment, intervention, and instruction for the prevention and treatment of dyslexia. The first grant year was spent setting up the grant, recruiting schools, and then figuring out how to work with the schools online only. Thus, during the COVID pandemic, we focused our efforts on one school conducting all work via Zoom calls. While there was a learning curve to online only, both the school and the grant team learned a lot from each other and helped the grant as it moved into a full school year, which just ended. The first year with this school, we focused on developing curriculum and assessment maps, SWOT analysis, and campus readiness. The principal and her team worked with us in a partner relationship, just as we had intended. Our first summer institute provided an opportunity for all K-5 teachers and teacher assistants to learn about the science of reading. We then spent the first full year, 21 to 22, in the classroom conducting just-in-time professional development, observations and feedback sessions, and monthly coaching of the 4 administrators through our network improvement community format. The first school had 1 year of work under its belt with us. So this was their second year. And then we started work with the 3 other schools in that 21-2022 academic year. During this next academic year, the grant team will collaborate with the schools on defining and implementing an integrated schedule of instruction. 2 schools are ready for this step. 1 school will be starting, quote, full-time, unquote, given the constraints of new teachers and the new district curriculum during the 21-22 academic year. The 4th school has a new principal starting, and that principal has a different focus. So we will work on how to best build a community with that new principal. Data for students identified with dyslexia will be analyzed this summer and ready for presentation in the fall. The next project, Promoting Achievement in Reading through Needs-Driven Evidence-Based Reading Structures, is a project conducted via 3 collaborators in the state of Ohio. The purpose of the Partners Project is to provide sustainability and improve outcomes for students with or at risk for dyslexia by focusing on a more robust MTSS system in pre-K through 1st grade. All 3 sites have been working collaboratively with the research team in Ohio. The preliminary findings indicate that the intervention is helping increase the number of students who are on target for grade level performance. At the end of this school year, the team has completed preschool science of reading training, strengthened Tier 1 and Tier 2 assessment and instruction in preschool, and has started a family engagement program. UCLA is the 3rd group in the 2019 cohort. The Teddy Project presents a central question. As state policies are increasingly mandating universal literacy screening, important questions remain concerning how early dyslexia risk can be identified, how literacy screening can be scaled, the extent to which screeners can accurately assess students from diverse linguistic backgrounds, and whether and which distinct reading profiles best predict dyslexia risk. As part of a large longitudinal literacy screening and intervention study aimed at addressing each of the above questions, they examine what reading profiles emerge among kindergarten students, including students identified as limited English proficient. Year 1, the pilot screening was conducted at the lab school. In year 2, there was screening at both the schools and the lab school, all while navigating the COVID protocols. Thus, some of the screenings were conducted via Zoom. In the current year, the researchers screened at all students at each school. And due to COVID, they're just now getting started with the intervention. In year 4, they will follow the same students into grade 2 and continue to intervene as needed. Approximately 15 kids were in the intervention at each school and approximately evenly distributed across the 3 types of intervention. So fewer groups are available in a sense, but they'll have more availability of their effects once they're able to fully analyze all the data that they have and are continuing to collect. Thank you for your time. And if you have any questions of any of the grants, as this was a very brief overview of what is actually being conducted, we ask that you please email the PI of each of the grants, and their email address is listed on the slide. And we look forward to hearing from you.